It's very bright. Oh, wearing my kimchi hat. And we're both wearing the same, what are these, 3/4 zip?
Yeah.
1/4 zip? Why is
These
this?
are
1/4.
1/3.
What metric?
I'm on this Facebook group called Americans Will Use Anything But the Metric System to Measure
I've
Things.
seen that, yeah.
I just love it. It's so funny. Now it's getting a little bit into like, oh, Americans are stupid and Americans have too many guns. And that's not the point of the group. It's to make funny jokes about how you measure things by bananas.
Those are Americans posing as someone else to not talk about the metric system. Arizona is a wildly beautiful place, brimming with over 100 brewing companies. I'm Rob Fulmer, the Executive Director of the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild. I'm joined by Deputy Director Andrew Bauman. Together we cover the state, bringing you the best of what's happening at our breweries and beyond. Welcome to Arizona Beer Frontier.
One guy had a picture of his truck. He said, the only metric thing I own is my 1989 Toyota Tacoma pickup. It was built in California, but since it's so reliable, I don't even have to have metric tools.
I needed a 10 millimeter socket to remove my battery and all the cables.
Oh,
Yeah, so I had to go find that because it does get lost. The 10 millimeter is like the most frequently lost.
it's the most frequently used, so therefore.
Yeah, so yeah, I had to. In fact, maybe if we have a break, I will bring in the a tool of the trade, if you will. Like we haven't done that in a while, but the battery. What do they call it? It's a capacitor. It's not a battery charger.
Oh,
You've had to use that too.
Yeah.
It is. I'm going to say right now, you spend upwards of $50 to $150 for this little brick that you can charge with even a dead battery, because all you're doing is you're just sucking in all the juice so that it can store it up for a microsecond, or not microsecond, part of a less than a minute.
Yes.
To start, it just stores it all up and kicks it out.
So it looks like a portable battery charger that you use for your phone, except it has outputs that are equivalent to that will hook up to your car battery and give it enough of a jolt.
Right. It's not a battery.
It is a battery, but it also has a capacitor in it.
It's designed to give all of the energy of that battery or as much as possible.
All at once.
All at once.
Damn.
And then there's very little left. And so then it'll lose its charge pretty quickly till, it'll retain some for a while. But, I mean, you could work off it pretty indefinitely if you wanted to go through the hassle, but I don't know. Like maybe if we have a break, I'll show it, or maybe I'll save it for another time. But that was pretty damn useful. I'm going to crack my beer.
Nice.
So have we started? Is this good enough? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Andrew Bauman.
Hey, Rob. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Welcome back from a little break.
Right. So if we're playing the theater of the mind here, Happy New Year, Andrew.
Oh, thanks.
It's the
Happy New Year to you
4th of January. No, we don't.
Nah.
We are not
this
going to.
This will be released after the New Year, but we are just between Christmas and New Year.
We're in that nebulous zone
of what happens in the world is so confusing. No one's sending emails or answering calls.
Right.
Mostly me.
Yeah. So you told me that you would listen to a podcast that I normally listen to but haven't gotten around to. I did not do a lot of work media related listening during the holidays.
Oh, I had the same. Yeah, that was just on the way in today.
Okay, so tell me about it. It is our friend John Hall. Which of the many shows was this? Was this
Drink Beer, Think Beer?
Drink Beer, Think Beer.
He has a series of 2023 wrap-ups with brewers, with retailers, with industry suppliers. I would guess there's a wholesaler one. I don't know, but a whole bunch of them. So each industry gets its own time.
Sure.
This particular one was craft beer bars. What is the state of the industry at craft beer bars these days? And they had, I have it here.
Okay.
Jeff Bruning is a fellow you know.
Yes. I met him in Tempe a couple of times. Probably meet him again this spring if he so happens to shoot me a text. He visits here for, I don't know, college sports or something.
Maybe he's a baseball fan.
I don't remember when it is. It's
Not
all
a
that.
lot of baseball in Iowa as far as pro sports go.
Right. And then when I visited my dad's alma mater at Drake University in Des Moines, I had an occasion to hang with him and Kelsey, who used to work with the Iowa Brewers Guild, and Jay Wilson, and we convened impromptu drinking over that weekend as well, and we went to El Bait Shop, which is one of Jeff, or Bruno as he's sort of referred to. But you go on.
He's got the Royal Mile, the Red Monk, Fong's Pizza, the Hessen House, Sbrocco, Shorty's, El Bait Shop, High Life Lounge, and Mullets.
I did go to the pizza, the Wong's. What is it?
Fong's Pizza.
I did go there. I did go to El Bait Shop. I did go to the Royal Mile. I didn't make it to all of those other places.
I would like to make it to the High Life Lounge. He was saying that it started out as just being Miller High Life, Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors Light, Hams,
Right.
Pabst, Blue Ribbon, but has added some. Okay, he said, so there was the bar of the classics. But as we age and consumers age, the classics become something else, like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale's on there.
Right.
Boulevard's on there.
So this is the bar, I believe, that's attached to El Bait Shop. I did walk in
Yes.
there, and then it's filled with memorabilia.
Yes.
And I might have to figure out if I can pull up any of that footage I have. Hopefully it's not buried on my backup drives, which
Right.
I'm struggling with that solution right now. I'm running out of. I've cycled through all the little drives that I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll rearrange this later when I have more
Someday.
space. That reckoning should have happened over the holiday, because there's nothing like, enjoying your holidays and going, excuse me a minute, I need to put another drive on and copy it over to another drive. That would have been so productive,
Well, hey,
Sorry, go ahead. I'm
that's okay.
I'm derailing as I
I'm
want to
going
do.
through that right now, but I'm taking my evenings to do that. So since there doesn't tend to be a ton of stuff to do right now, for reasons, one of them being COVID, I had time to hang out at the house for 5 days straight. Anyways, back to it. Jeff was there, and Devin Cox, who owns the Greenville Beer Exchange in South Carolina.
I have not been there.
A little different environment, a little different take on the way that craft beer bars are going. But essentially, Jeff was saying we are pulling handles back. We are going to they're not saying that business is going down, but that the pull from consumers for all these tons of different beers is just not what it was 4 or 5 years ago.
So let's review some things here that we talked offline about and stuff that I know of those places. When he says he's pulling back, and his businesses represent, I would say maybe close to 450 taps
Yes.
in total, and
Yeah.
one of them is got 200 taps.
Right. I think that's
El
El
Bait Shop?
Bait Shop.
Yeah.
It had 235 at one point, and he's pared that back to 200.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, so it's a it's a good hefty percentage, but
Yeah.
let's not, let's not. Hey man, lack of choice over at El Bait Shop is not a
That's
thing,
not
right?
the problem, no.
No, and then the smaller place, Devin.
From Greenville Beer Exchange.
No. I'm sorry. The smaller
I don't know
establishment,
which one that's called, but
25 seats.
yeah, no, 35 seats, and they had 40 taps and they're down to 35.
Right.
So one different beer for every person in the place. So that's nice.
I see some naming opportunities, like
Right.
my chair,
Right.
my tap.
Yeah. I mean, you could I'll be your business partner. Just make sure that we have this investors happening. They said that, it is a whole lot of stuff that there had been so many breweries opening that they were just adding more and more. They had so many more breweries distributing to the state. They were just adding more and more. And they got to the point now where in Iowa that kind of stopped. Everything that's coming in has come in. They're not getting a lot of new ones. They actually have distributors consolidating and getting rid of brands. So the total number of brands available and the number of beers available have gone down, but not to a point where they're concerned about the industry's strength. Just that maybe we're doing something a little more smart rather than running that train as fast as we can, right?
Sure. So Des Moines, Iowa, a town that is 30% larger than Tucson. Okay, just throwing that out there. It's a lot of beer choices there still, and that even after. But he did when I was there. This was in summerish. Yeah. He did start to say some of this stuff. He said, "Hey, we used to get these from these guys, but it's not so much. They got dropped by their distributor. It's not really worth us going to get those beers anymore or really work hard at it."
So. Oh, I think they got 3 Floyds now, and that's a big deal. And that somehow there was some shadiness, and it was ending up on draft in Iowa, but not through a distributor or through I don't know what the deal was, but something was weird. But now it's just legitimately there as a distributed brand. And Devin from Greenville was saying they still have breweries coming in, but the problem is they all are bringing the same stuff. He said they have a hazy IPA, they have a Vienna lager, they have something else. Yeah. And it's all the same stuff that they already have from suppliers who they know have a great product. And they talked a little bit about going on Untappd and not going on Untappd to look at ratings, but to look at pictures of the beer and be like, does it look like a good beer? Is it going to present well in my bar? Is the label good enough to put on my shelf, or is it not?
Does it currently exist, or is it because this is the conundrum? Like, you have to, if you're going to put things out in distribution, you have to have enough for the eventuality that if it sells well, you can't have any interruptions, ideally, in the supply chain, because there are some people who will put up with it.
Right.
And there are some breweries that can say, "Hey, we'll get what you can," and but even the most requested brands in Arizona like that, eventually it just wears thin. And
sure, absolutely. Do you remember when Surly came to town?
Yeah.
Ooh, people were stoked.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Are they still officially in? Do they?
I mean, they had a lot happen.
Yeah.
They had a little rough.
I mean, are they still with Hensley?
I don't know.
Could
but
look that up,
there is that thing. Like, people get very excited. It's super cool. And then all of a sudden it's just where to go.
Yeah.
It's all right, though. It's an interesting podcast. And if you have some time and you want to listen to something, obviously it's not Arizona specific, but more of a high level image of what's going on. And I think a lot of it spoke to what I see in our market too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it sort of caused us to because we thought, hey, we'll do our predictions for the next year. But I think if you've listened to the last couple of shows, and I was going to actually direct you to those, we just talked about negative growth with Bart Watson. And if you Google our podcast and Bart Watson, you'll probably come up with a few things. A couple episodes ago, that was with Lester Jones and Bart Watson. But as I've traveled, I've tracked his talks, and we've identified changes to his forecasting and when he adds a new slide and what the discussion points are. So we're pretty in tune with the information that
everybody wants to talk to Bart in December and get his what's coming up in 2024.
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunities if you are a Bart Watson fanboy to watch him on things. Brewbound, the BA's 30-minute coffee talk or something.
Power Hour.
Power Hour. So he's out there if you're looking for it.
Yeah,
You
I
can
mean,
find it.
long story short is beer is either flat or negative as a trend.
Overall, it's down 5% last year.
Package is tight. If you're with distributed craft, there will be bigger winners, but a lot more losers. Consolidation of purchasing points is going to definitely affect that. If mergers and such, fewer buyers, you have to bring you can't just have a product that you think is going to do well. I mean, you have to have the volume. You have to be able to switch exclusively to that when it takes off, and you have to have the can stock and all that stuff if you want to play in that game.
In Arizona, here's the thing. If that merger, why are we talking about this again? But if you don't get in the fry set this time around, but you do get in Albertsons and Safeway, you can still sell some beers.
Yeah.
And then go to Fry's next and be like, hey, here's what happened. We think this would do well at your place. And they say, okay, cool. And then maybe you lose a placement at Albertsons or Safeway, but you gain one at Fry's. You got that little bit of back and forth. Once there's a single buyer, that doesn't exist. It's that.
Yeah.
And I mean, Walmart sells beer, but definitely does not have the craft chops that the grocery stores do. You could get into independents, and that's great, but they don't move the volume that you're looking at through a grocery store. You just don't have, when there's one, well, I don't know, I guess Sprouts does a lot of good stuff with craft in this state.
A lot of warm shelf, though.
No, Sprouts is cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, do they have any warm? I don't think. The ones I go to, I don't think to.
I guess I'm just used to
might be
seeing
smaller.
just giant displays.
And
that are
Total
warm.
Wine,
Yeah.
they'll move a lot of beer, but all warm shelf.
Yeah.
Whole Foods, that's all cold.
The point is that is that's
They're-
ever increasingly hard market to capture. And
You might be presenting to Sprouts, you might be presenting to Whole Foods, but the number of the volume you're going to move through them is just not going to be the same.
the second point is your strongest suit is draft in your own place, and draft elsewhere is drying up. People are, as we just discussed, one of the prominent volume leaders in the country, I guess, or in terms of having as many draft handles as that guy does, Jeff, and all that's going on. Like, someone to listen to, he's scaling back even at that large level. So it remains in your own place, and what do you have to do? You have to do other things that are not beer, because beer in itself is competing with RTDs and other flavored beverages and potentially non-alcs and play a role in that, and CBD drinks and perhaps THC in general, maybe not so much as a beverage at this point, but all that, right? So you have to bring people in your place, and you have to be an experience. That's the and Arizona is built for that, and it's all about hospitality. And I will try to put in the Bart Watson quote again in there, like literally audio and video that I'll crib from his Power Hour talk.
But this hospitality part of brewing is going to need to evolve in the coming years. Anyone who's worked in bars and restaurants already knows that. And brewing's probably going to need to think of new ways of connecting with the customer to keep this brewery channel strong as it moves forward.
So that's the takeaway. And like, how do we get there? Well, how are they related to events that are changing as well? So all that's our predictions in a nutshell, but those spring resets will tell us a lot.
Sure.
For the larger grocery stores. But so we decided we were going to take a look and see what other people were saying and whether we agree with their predictions or not.
Sure.
So I didn't discuss this with you, but this is a couple that I got from Craft Beer Times.
Oh.
And they've talked to a couple people. West Six Brewery, Brady Barlow. And he talked about that he felt as though events and festivals offer exceptional experiences, and those are things that he can showcase his products, and wants to bring more of that excitement to his tap room. And again, he focused on the tap room. Aaron Reams from Bent Water Brewing in Lynn, Massachusetts, talked about the evolution of distributors and is, agreeing with, everything that we've heard is that distributors are a great asset, but they are going to constrict on the number of brands that are available.
And look at what's happening in Arizona, man.
Yeah.
We just had 4 or 5 breweries that got picked up in the last 6 months by distributors.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's counter to this, but
It's counter to that, and it is just
but we don't know what's coming out on the back end, like of their catalog.
of their total catalog.
Who are they dropping?
Yeah.
They may not drop anybody in a literal sense, but who are they not focused on?
Sure.
And you as consumers will see that if you have a brand that you're regularly getting. If it gets bounced from the spring sets, if you're getting at grocery stores, or another telling thing is, what do you see at some of your independents if they have an overstock of something, or they have closeout pricing on stuff? That's generally a sign that that's not going to be available moving forward.
Distributors watch those the beer aging really close in their warehouse. So if they've got a beer that's getting close, they'll discount it and it will move, because there are bars and restaurants that might not be the focus of craft beer drinkers, but if they can get a keg of craft for the same price as a keg of non-craft,
right,
and they have one craft handle, they'll
Right.
pick up 3 or 4 and be like, yep, we'll pour that, and it'll pop up, and then, of course, it'll be gone.
or package, and all of a sudden that's the new
I know what you're
office
just
manager's
say it.
chair.
Just say
He's going to just sit on
bunch
cases.
of cases of
If it used to be more on the bigger beer side, but go to Lely and see what was $2.99 a 6-pack. Those are all like your Bud Platinums, all of those things that that you saw a Super Bowl ad for, and then they were gone. You can pick them up at Lely. I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time. There might be some craft in there. I don't know. What else did you have on the prediction side, or is this all me now?
No, I've got some unions, the rise of unions.
Oh yeah.
Unions are having a moment right now in many industries, and the Teamsters just voted to strike against Bud. But in craft, Anchor famously had unions, and they're gone, but the union is trying to bring the brand back, which is crazy. Not the union, but employees that
Right.
were associated. There have been attempts at toppling Goliath, right? They're
Yeah.
unionizing attempts, and I think that was an issue at Surly back during 2020, was that they were trying to unionize, and it wasn't going well.
Right. You'll see a lot of news about that. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Our friends at Fate Brewing.
And I'm drinking Wandering Anniversary. It is a Wandering Tortoise anniversary beer from Kitsune Brewing Company.
It's cosplaying a fox, a kitsune.
It's a fox cosplaying I don't know what's happening.
yeah.
It looks, it's amazing.
So yeah, I'm having the Fate local lager for those of you listening. Sorry, you look at Starbucks attempts to unionize. So like, if those things are happening in your state or your area, you can guarantee that there are discussions about any kind of manufacturing or even the service industry. Those are obviously service jobs. We're not going to Starbucks manufacturing. And a good person to follow if you want to understand the state of that is Dave Infante, Fingers, I guess podcasts and also the written
Is he on
blog.
Substack? He also writes for VinePair.
Yeah.
and-
I know there's some VinePair haters out there when they see a listicle and they don't agree with it. Like, what's the best beer in your state? Like, I don't even know if they do that anymore, but I'm going to tell you right now, Dave Infante unimpeachable in terms of quality of writing
Quality
and
content, yeah.
thoughtfulness, and sticks to a few topics pretty hard. He covers a wide swath, but the labor issue is something that he's taken up as his beat.
He's a big fan of unions. And
Yeah, it's fair to say that.
Oh, well, I mean, he says it right
Yeah.
out loud. It's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone has to have their own opinion. I moved to Arizona because my dad wanted out of his union. That's the reason we're here.
Right
How about
on.
that?
Okay.
So, I mean, and my uncle was the treasurer of the UAW. So there's weird shit in this world.
I have a master's in labor relations.
There you go.
Did I use it here? Not very much. So
All right. Well, that was a nice little side venture.
Segue.
So unions, that was a thing.
yeah.
I read a little bit. It was in Beer Business Daily, which I do not subscribe to, and
I used to. I
we can't afford it.
can't afford
It's so expensive. They have an article with Bonnie Herzog from Goldman Sachs, who is the convenience store guru.
Okay.
All the convenience store stuff is on Bonnie's back. Can you believe it?
Wow.
She, although I couldn't read the particular article, which talked about who were the winners and losers on the new sets in convenience stores.
Right. I'm guessing 19 2-ounce cans. New Belgium is a winner. Modelo.
The rest of craft are losers.
Yes.
I'm just guessing. I
Yeah.
don't know nothing. I don't know nothing.
I mean,
I couldn't see it.
that doesn't mean if you see any of our Arizona products at a convenience store that they're losers, but
Right.
no, that's not what we're saying.
I did do a little Google search of her and her work and found that convenience stores are evolving into a quasi on-premise kind of situation where they're
Does that mean people are drinking in the parking lot?
where they're really focusing more on their consumable in the building stuff.
Wait.
Like, I know you've heard of Buc-ee's, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so it's like a Disneyland
Right.
of a convenience store.
Truck stop.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get to here, Quick Trip really kind of elevated the convenience store experience a few years ago when they came to town.
Yeah.
And Circle K's been doing that. I saw Circle K has locations in, I saw it on a Anthony Bourdain thing the other day. They're in Korea
Okay.
and Vietnam.
Wow.
I know.
Good for them.
Hometown heroes right here. Anyways, that they are evolving to try and have some quasi on-premise stuff.
I wonder what
doesn't
that is.
necessarily mean drinking
In the parking lot.
That doesn't mean drinking alcohol there, but that it's more. They're also evolving to be hospitality and evolving to be an experience rather than just a.
That makes more sense. than-
Unfortunately, it turned. Fry's tried that and didn't do it. Gave up on it after pandemic, but before that it was going strong, and then they were just like, nah.
I'm going to level a little bit of criticism without actually being too. The problem, as I see it with Fry's, as it pertains to that issue surrounding probably all of their alcohol products, is there is a corporate headquarters that struggles to enforce the standards that they would like in all of their branch stores.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, and is that a problem? It is a problem when you want to do institutional wide partner agreements or advertising campaigns. I say that, and I know that we've had some success in the past, and some of our members have had success. So I don't want to, throw that all out there, but that that is the struggle. Is you have independent management within the store, and then the general manager and
Buyers.
yeah. And there's a constant struggle. Like, oh well, they want to maintain their own character. They want to have some curation, and they really resist
Yeah.
these top-down things. And so, and I don't think that's
I have seen it. I have
unusual
seen it
from
for sure.
a lot of different,
Especially in
organizations.
large organizations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just kind of like this organization. We have no power to push that down. None. And we have compliance largely by choice, so it doesn't always happen. So when we roll things out, we cross our fingers.
All right, here's another thing. And we already talked about this today too. The rise of non-alcoholic products in tap rooms. And
Yeah.
does it make sense for your tap room? And what other things make sense in your brewery tap room?
Yeah, that was so I have a list
Oh,
from curated by Karen Newman from Wine Enthusiast, and this is about alcoholic beverage trends across the board. But it is mostly informed by people from Discus, which is the distilled spirits council, WSWA, which is the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers Association. So there's a lot of that, but I do. They mentioned what did you just say? Low proof and no proof are part of the norm. That is a trend that they're reinforcing,
and I love it.
and
I
it
am
makes
here
sense
for it.
because in the spirit world, the play on RTDs, ready to drink cocktails, is to introduce spirits in low or no or very low alcohol, relatively speaking, and they don't make a lot of money on those, but they want to graduate you to
Full bottles.
full bottles.
So they have the absolute seltzer, but their real goal is to get you to buy the absolute vodka bottle.
Right. And then
Yeah.
beyond that, the anniversary special edition
The New Year's
high end. Yeah.
pack. Sure.
Right. I mean, and it's just, that's like a lot of products, right? You know, I just was, when I was getting my battery changed, I saw someone pull up in a late model Jetta, which is what my wife had for many years. But like the Jetta got so big, it turned into basically, it exceeded the size of the Passat, which was the higher end. And the Passat started to muscle into the Audi A4, A6, A8. So like they get you in a small level, and in the auto industry, they just keep
Absolutely.
increasing the luxury because you're hooked on the brand. Same thing. The way that doesn't work with beer per se is there's a top end on that with beer.
Right.
You don't go, hey, we're gonna get everybody on the
Into barrel age.
on the 3.2 platform, and then we're gonna get them to barrel age. It just caps out really fast, right?
Because it's about flavor and experience.
You
and
can
it's
do
not about-
you can do line extensions, like you can
Yes.
do extensions of a brand, and New Belgium, what we talked about, has done that very well. But with a freaking zombie forest ranger, okay. Anyway, but Kara also said that happy hour will return with a vengeance, and I think your reaction was like, "What?" I'm like, "Well, here's the thing: if other people in the alcohol space, bars, restaurants, and if spirits is pushing this, this actually works in our favor. Like, so I know it's not typical all the time for a lot of craft beer breweries to do a lot of happy hours. Like some people are like, oh, we already do, and all that stuff. Like that is a move to bring people back onto premise. We need to follow that trend if it is a trend, and really embrace it and
So happy
again
hours,
create more occasions, right?
Yes. Happy hours disappeared during pandemic.
Yep.
Some places have brought them back. Some places have not. I have seen several in the last couple of weeks of our local breweries
Right.
who have been announcing happy hours back.
Good.
So speaking to Kara's suggestion, yes.
Well, in happy hour, I think some people think, oh, it's like markedly reduced discounts on drinks or something like that. But it's whatever you really want to make
it's
it.
a buck
like,
off.
It
It's free chips and salsa.
right, or it's something you put in people's heads like, hey, after work, let's go out. Why? Because it's happy hour. It's a concept that has a fungible value, right? It's like, hey, help me move. I'll buy you a beer, or let's sit down
Yeah.
for a beer. Like the
Right.
beer price of the beer is more than the, I guess, $8 a pint you're spending if you're going out. Like it has more value because I've
Right.
offered it to you, and like I'm going to buy you a beer. Like you can just say like well, just give me $10. We'll call it even. I'm good. No, it's much more meaningful, right? So happy hour is whatever you want to make it. It's occasion to get someone to do something they normally wouldn't do, and go out. So, again, bringing people back to the tap room. We already talked about low proof. There was some hand-wringing about what Gen Z is going to do, and I think we've talked about that. For right now, the population is drinking about the same amount of ethanol as they ever have, and with every generation, there's a wait and see. This one is definitely something that we're waiting to see on, but like we've got 5 or 10 years before that really manifests itself as a drag on the people who are getting out of the alcohol industry because they're either dying or they have health problems,
Right.
or they're in their maybe they just should move to a retirement home, a wellness situation where they have a brewery on site, like
Friendship Village.
Friendship Village is gonna. We have to go over there. Like after this, let's go over there and let's just like pound on the door.
They don't want to talk to me. I don't know. I'm so nice.
Transparency. This was as it was. They were talking. It was about transparency in ethically sourced, sustainable, and actually, this is one of the things I think Mr. Infante discusses. Like people like to say those things, they like to believe, but it's all about the pocketbook. People don't really. It's part of your story, great, but I don't think sustainability is the be all end all. As an example, I mean, we have people who are making beer with local grain, right?
Oh yeah, I threw that in there, right? Local grain is
but I mean, is it people aren't seeking it out because of that? It is a feel good. About
it's a
brand that you.
on top.
It's a feel good about a brand you already support.
In beer, it's a cherry on top.
Yeah.
We source local grain. We use a local canning company. We use
They
local
support their
printer.
local guild.
they support their local guild. Like these are all good things.
Yeah.
It's not driving consumers into the
No,
room.
it's a piece. A piece of
Although
the
it
story.
can encourage repeat visits.
Yeah.
I mean,
If it's not part of your store and you add it, it can be part of something that does bring a different crowd. But
let me tell you something about stories, because I was working for a company, a new company, and they wanted to do all local beef. But they really didn't want to put it on the menu or shout it out. They just wanted to do it. And that's fine. The problem is, if you don't tell people what you're doing, they don't know you're doing it. And there's a value. You're paying more for that. There's a value to the consumer for it. So you have to let them know. If you're already doing these things and you're not telling your story to your customer, you're missing out on an opportunity. And there might be 10% of your guests who even care. But if those 10% do an extra visit every month because they have the warm fuzzy about you, it's a big deal.
that's great.
Okay. You're welcome.
No, it's true. We sometimes fail at that as an organization ourselves. But we're here every week for an hour to, I guess, fix that a little bit.
Nothing.
Your next cocktail might not be at a bar. This goes back to RTDs who have, slowly introducing spirits to things like sporting events, things that traditionally they have stayed out of. That's already happening. So I guess I see that for sure. Again, this is introducing varying degrees of alcohol strength, flavors, in a easy to purchase store package. It is what it's built on the back of the craft beer movement. If we do nothing about this competition, let's at least establish this was something built on the backs of people experimenting and challenging the
Ken
one style of beer.
Grossman.
Yeah, from Anchor all the way through to even
Crazy homebrewers.
to even some of the things that happened that I don't think you got into this, that Jeff,
Oh yeah. Did we almost kill our own industry by doing things like barrel aged Kolsch? Did we kill our industry by doing super sweet pastry stouts? I mean, last year is the first time dessert and pastry stouts were a category at JABF. So is it a good thing that we're doing this, or are we throwing olives into beer, having people taste it and be like, okay, well, I experienced that and that was not great?
Olives into beer, like that place in like Havasu does already for many
I have
years.
no idea. I mean, I was just,
It's called a desert martini. It's they put it in bud, so the whole lot. I mean, no, I get your point, and also,
we have pickle beer.
yeah. I mean, but
And
some of
it's
them are done well.
popular.
You know, it's
I
like,
like them. I drink them, yes. But is it crazy? It is crazy.
It's crazy.
Look at it from the outside. Look at it from 10 years ago and be like, we're going to put pickles in a beer. I remember being at Homebrew Con back in the day, and they had chicken in beer.
yeah, that was the Charlie Papazian recipe.
I don't know what you're talking about, but it's insane.
It's based on history. Like, well, here's the
It's
thing.
based
like,
on history.
It is.
Chicken history?
Yeah, no. Before they
Tyson brand beverages?
when they didn't understand how fermentation worked, they thought it kicked off fermentation. So they would. I'm not kidding about this. Like that is. All right, it is documented. I don't know if it's actually true. It's documented, right. I mean, because like we get into beer history but it is documented as a thing. So
I'm not
anyone
shitting on any one of these.
No.
things, but as a
I agree
trend
with
of-
you. I agree with you. I find myself in the weird position of
Okay, I'm
not
shitting
taking.
on chicken beer.
Normally, I would be taking this position, and you'd be defending it. I guarantee. I'm like, well, I'm on the other side. That's okay. It's okay. So like, because you mentioned barrel aged Kolsch, I'm like, that is actually something that is being probably very well done at things like Fobab, where your expectation is. It's called a Kolsch, but it's like 12% and put in a barrel, and it's all, you know, it's for all intents and purposes. It's
and
a
then
pale.
we
It's
put
a
it in,
pale.
and then we put it in a 16-ounce can and send it to Iowa and try to make
right.
them
Okay,
sell it.
that is like the majority of stuff that happens.
That's
when
where
it
the,
goes.
that's where the problem comes in.
Pendulum swings that way, and that's what everybody experiences. And like they try it one time and they say, "This is garbage.
Yes.
What am I doing here?" But I will tell you that there are some very a trend in the barrel aged world. If I'm looking at the last couple of years of Fobab, is very low contact, delicate styles in barrels. So there is just a hint of wood. So like just like you can taste a little bit of wood in a lighter wine, not necessarily always heavy Bordeaux's and all that stuff. Same concept, but you're right. People hear about it and they try to replicate it. It goes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with Bart Watson. Hey, the trend is double IPAs in 19.2 cans, but if you're not New Belgium, it's not a trend. It's not a trend. it's actually a negative.
Negative, yeah.
If you're not putting them into into convenience stores and you're not able to crank out the volume, nobody else is doing it. So you can dabble in it, but don't expect people to pick up on it, because the people who order 19.2 cans and walk down the street are not your typical barroom customers. They're an untapped market. But
Should we hit smoke beers now, or?
you mean
Hey,
the
Rob,
greatest?
you know what? I think we should probably take a break.
Oh, I'm all animated. All right, we can take a break. I need another beer, and I can put on my that I snuck in last couple of episodes.
Yeah.
My This Week in
Yeah,
Rock
yeah,
Beer
yeah.
hat. But let's take a break.
This- Oh, hey, Rob, welcome back.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah, I want to bring you in with a little
At the
quote
s-
from Garrett Oliver.
Oh, wait, what?
He says, my favorite movie is Spinal Tap. And one of the quotes in that relates very closely to beer is, it's such a fine line between stupid and clever.
Was I being stupid or clever?
No, I was saying that the crazy beers.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. You did that little tidbit.
No, I had it on my sheet. I just didn't say it earlier.
Got you.
Yeah.
Check it off.
Yeah, checked it off.
All right. We're officially back. Well, I did a.
We're officially back again. Now I feel like I'm in a beer commercial since you put it right in the microphone.
Well, I was going to say at the sound of the cracked beer, but I double clutched on it. It didn't come out as a nice, crispy, crack.
This life we live.
Yeah. Can you scooch those down a little bit? I need
Hey,
more
Rob,
room.
tell me a little bit about your Christmas, hey? Oh, we're going to do this first. Okay.
Yeah. Auto. So we were describing the dead battery thing.
The rescue. It's a rescue device for a dead car battery.
So in Arizona, for people who aren't here, you don't really buy a battery, you rent it.
Yeah, it's dead. If you get your battery to last more than 3 years, you are
I got to
lucky
2,
person.
and it was 100% under warranty. Mm-hmm. But I didn't spend a lot of money on the fucking battery. It is
Yeah.
a fucking battery.
See, that's the thing about spending a lot of money on a battery in Arizona. You spend a lot of money once, and you get 2 batteries.
Kinda, yeah. And also free windshields, apparently. I don't know how that works either.
Free windshields, yeah.
Like you pay your insurance. Your insurance has the coverage. They can't change your rates based on it. I don't know how that happened, but you can go through. If you have a Jeep, you can go through a windshield every 3 months. Literally, if you want to take the time.
They will drop you. I mean,
Really?
you don't do it, but yeah, they can drop you. They can't change your rates, but they can drop you.
I don't know about
Because I had a friend that had that problem. They got like 3 windshields in a year, and they just got dropped.
that. Yeah. Did they get like $180 worth of steak dinners at whatever?
Maybe,
Because
I don't know.
There's always weird incentives like.
Scams everywhere. I hate it.
So I stopped getting it replaced. I have some major cracks right now because I was just tired of like giving my phone number up and then like they just call you all the time and then they say, well, we'll throw in this gift certificate and like, how does this even work? Like here's
here's how
glass
it
is
works.
winning?
Of course, they inflate the bill and send it to your insurance company who has to pay it because you can get it done wherever you want. That's the law. But I just go through and then everybody pays for it.
Yeah.
I just call my insurance company and say, hey, I need to get my glass replaced. And they say, here, go to Safe Light. And I do. And it's super easy.
Someone says, oh, you're just a communist. I go like, let me see your windshield.
yeah.
You are too.
I mean, I got my windshield replaced on my Subaru once in 5 years. And it was right at the 5-year mark because I know I had enough stars to get it replaced. I know the problem was that it was so etched by sandstorms and dust that it was really hard to see through. And the next rock that hit actually made a giant crack. And I'm like, okay, great. Now I can go and do it. I don't know, man. I try to live my life as
All right.
ethically as possible.
So this is what I was talking about. It's a giant capacitor. This is the Auto Wit. I think I got it for $150. You don't have to go this way. Here's the thing. I know if you know what I know, like being a married person, like you can't buy one for you and one for your wife and give your wife the less feature focused thing or whatever. So you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. It sits in your car. Like right now, this one has 64%, but I just used it last night. I think when I plugged it in for the first time ever, it had 45%. So potentially you could start your car with that much, maybe, but it's got your classic leads on this end.
Jumper cable style.
Right. You put those on and then you plug into the unit and it just takes not a slow trickle. It just takes whatever energy's in the battery and it stores it in the capacitor. So this plugs in here, boom. It's like the capacitor has enough amps to throw at.
So your battery is going to send it out in this little stream.
Right.
But the capacitor is going to take
Build it
that
up.
little stream, collect it all over
Right.
here in this big reservoir,
Like-
and then bust open the dam.
Right. It's like you're transferring all of the Coca-Cola from the battery. It goes in here and this thing's going, yeah, we're going to shake that thing up. And when it's ready to go, when you hit the thing, it's just good. So The nice thing about this one is you can charge it if you're like meeting someone. Like, oh, I'll come pick you. I'll come charge you. You can plug it into your cigarette lighter. There's also a USB thing. So I mean, if you really are a freak, you could keep this thing charged all the time. Like it doesn't make sense to do. It will literally take almost the deadest battery. It'll take longer, but like, it's like 5 minutes maybe from my battery. And then once it hits 100, you hit the button, it gives you 10 seconds, it'll beep, and then you turn it on and you're ready to go. So I highly recommend that because, yeah, you can have jumper cables, but
Why was your car dead?
battery?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just come on.
And then you just replaced it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I replaced the battery.
So mine happened when we were skiing,
Yeah.
and the boy child, instead of turning it to accessory, turned it all the way on.
Right.
And had all the doors open, playing music super loud. And then he's like, I think the battery's dead. Oh, indeed
Yeah.
it was.
But I would tell you, it's probably not charging. Recharge. I mean, it's
You're
definitely going to have to be
I have
replaced.
a
at some point.
warranty through 2025, which means I'm ready to get that new one.
Right.
I paid a lot for that battery. I'm going to get a brand new one.
Yeah. So in Arizona, because of the extreme temperatures, you probably don't. You can't hang on to a battery for very long here.
This has been battery talk with Rob.
Well, no,
Fulmer.
I mean, this is like one of the tools of trade the industry. You have to have this because you can't be relying on, and as much as we travel and remote parts of the state and all other stuff, I consider it part of just like this
As
microphone.
much as I like camping.
Yeah, it's a good thing to have, and I was like, hey, Brenda, my wife, like, let me show you how this works. She's like, and I'm like, oh, by the way, you have this in your car. I bought this for you last year, just so you know. Like,
It's
really?
there.
It's in the car. Like, go find it sometime. And it's pretty straightforward. It's super easy. It's a lot safer, I think, than using jumper cables. And again, you don't have to hunt someone down in the parking lot. So you're totally self-sufficient. I can't even think of a situation where that would not work because you're always going to have some charge in your battery, just enough to get it there.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to, I could probably plug it in. You could plug it in a wall outlet through that USB cord, et cetera, et cetera. So highly recommend. I think we're done with the drink predictions per se. I do have another trend that is predicted
Great.
by McCormick.
Yes, McCormick Spices.
The spices, yeah. This is their 24th edition. They've been doing this since 2000. I don't have a list of other predictions. I can't track their
Accuracy.
but
I need their spreadsheet, please.
they have a couple things, but one of the things I thought was interesting is their trend this year is for 2024 is sour power.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ is not trending right now. All right, impromptu break.
Not thrilled. Not thrilled. Oh, is this going to be on? Are we going to have a...
We could have timed that with when I was shaking up the hypothetical Coke bottle.
Just put it back together in editing. God damn it. Remember how I was struggling to get the cans off in the coop?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I said, thanks for shaking mine up.
Well, it wasn't this one, but it was during that period, and so apparently it was more shaken than I thought.
It's all right. Can we?
I can recite. I can still get it. It's okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Andrew Bauman and beer. I tend to pour my beers from way up here
Yeah.
because I want that carbonation out.
Yeah.
They're over carbonated many times, in my opinion.
Right.
But that's a personal preference. I know that.
No, it is a personal preference, but more people should prefer that.
Less carbonated beer than they do. Yeah.
Right. Carbonation. If you ingest the carbonation, it's just going to make you full.
Yeah.
And so the value you think you're getting when someone pours you a headless beer
Oh, so bad.
is going to kick your ass later.
You're gonna be unhappy.
McCormick.
All right. Thank you for the grace on that, Rob.
You're welcome. McCormick, Sour Power. That's their prediction. From tamarind to coconut vinegar, acid agents are stepping into the spotlight to open our senses, boost craveability, and even help cook without heat. Sour is proving it's not just another ingredient. It's revolutionizing menus, developing layers upon layer of exciting flavor. So like we obviously in the beer business, we know about sours for at least a decade.
Well,
Like
I mean,
popular-
in American craft beer for a decade.
Yeah.
In world beer for millennia.
Since beer was able to
Invented.
spoil
Yes.
and blend it out, and then in certain areas celebrated. Brabant in Belgium, and
Lambic.
so it's interesting to me because again, this is something that we have and we put out there without a lot of explanation or context. This is a context. If this trend does take off, as McCormick is hoping to or hoping to signal, in the food industry, you open up a whole lot more opportunities to sell those kinds of beers and to develop layers and stories. And as we have said in past episodes, looking at trends, larger breweries are no longer wanting to package in cans and bottles sour offerings. So this is a opportunity left to smaller local players. So I'm intrigued by coconut vinegar as well. Like that sounds interesting to me.
Is that one word?
Coconut vinegar, 2 words.
Is that a hyphenated word?
I don't know.
There's
no.
Is it coconut and vinegar? Or
Just
is
says from tamarind to coconut vinegar. Comma, acidic agents are.
Okay.
Like, on the one hand, Andrew, you have tamarind. On the other hand, you have coconut vinegar.
Coconut vinegar. Okay.
Yeah. Let's look it up. They also like put in a portmanteau into this wall of text. Nostalgia. NEWSTALGIA. Like nostalgia and new. So new flavors evoking fond memories.
Yes, I dig it.
Yeah. I dig it as a concept. I don't know if I can nostalgia. When I look at it, it looks a little weird to me. We had a portmanteau discussion in past episodes. Anyway, I thought it was interesting to include people discussing trends in the
Larger food,
larger food and also as discussed earlier,
spirits and wine.
spirits and wine and cocktails and things like
Everyone's got a take, but a lot of them are saying similar things, not the same, but similar things.
that. Yeah.
Hey, Rob, let's talk about our 2024. Since we're a legislative-focused organization,
Yeah.
what's going on in the federal arena for 2024?
I
What's the big one? One big one. The budget.
feel like you're quizzing me.
I'm not. I'm sorry.
The budget.
The budget's the big
Whether we're going to close the government or not?
thing to run into again. And this is our third.
Yeah.
This is our third run at it.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth. There's the original run. Whatever. We still don't have a budget. We have had continuing resolutions that keep things going, but that can't go on forever, and they have to get a budget at some point. We're coming up to that in early January, mid-January? January
Yes.
19th.
Yeah.
That number just sticks out because I'm going on vacation on the 20th, so that's totally fine.
You can go either way.
Internationally. Okay. The way that affects our industry is the TTB, cola, and formulary mostly. I'm sure there are many other wide-ranging effects that would hit our
Licensing,
industry.
transfers, new licenses.
Yeah, all TTB. I mean, yeah. And if the TTB were to be not defunded, but defunded for a period of time, it creates a huge backlog. And so that's a big deal. We also have I wish I could put in like little sound effects of sparkles. The USPS Shipping Act. Maybe someday you can send beer through the USPS. FDA and nutritional facts requirements are still being discussed and getting closer and closer. So I think that breweries should be ready for that to happen because it will happen eventually. Is it 2024? Maybe. Is it 2025? I don't see us getting past 2025 without having to put nutritional facts on every label.
That is a prediction you have.
I'm here
Yeah.
right now.
Right now.
The R&D rebates is a big deal. That is part of the budget process, and R&D rebates have not been renewed. So as of December 31st, your R&D rebates are no longer happening, breweries, and that's
So give us a real life example that you know of. Where this
sure.
applies.
Okay, hi, my name is Andrews Brewery, and actually, I got a
No, real one. You have a real one. You have a real. You've done this, right?
yeah.
Okay, so tell us that. story.
So Andrews Brewery is creating a new beer, and because we're creating a new beer for our brewery, the ingredients in that first batch that you're trying, or second or third if you're trying to perfect it, you can write those off. And if you make a lot of batches in a year, you can write off a lot of ingredient costs. So
But this is something you've done,
I've done this.
Yeah.
Many breweries do this all the time.
right? I'm just trying to give the audience who doesn't know this perspective on it.
Yeah. So the R&D credits used to be, in the past, they had to be amortized.
Right.
Currently, they are able to be directly written off in the year that you
Paid for them.
experience the expense of your R&D.
Right.
So if that were to either revert back to amortization or be completely just not available, that would be a huge cost burden. So that's a big deal. And then there's the Credit Card Competition Act, which is trying to lower credit card rates or make them more transparent when you're signing up with a processor or something. I don't really know, but I know that every single one of our members takes credit cards. So it could potentially be a big thing.
Yeah, that's something I'm looking for clarity from the Brewers Association on, because I know it's very easy for the credit card processors to put stuff out there. And I think they have it sounds good, but we don't want this because it's going to raise costs. And I mean, literally anything that causes a company to do anything extra, they're going to say is going to
Increase costs.
If it changes the way they do business, they're always going to say, it's going to increase costs that they will pass on to the consumer. Well, not everything's passable on to the consumer, so maybe that's what we don't have clarity on.
And what a lot of consumers don't know is that if you have a business credit card that you swipe at a retailer, the retailer pays a different rate for that card. If you have a rewards credit card, when you swipe that, your retailer is paying a different cost for that card to be used. And a lot of times the complexity of that situation, which, if you think, okay, I have a Visa rewards card, I have a MasterCard rewards card, I have a American Express with Delta points, those are all different rates to the retailer, and they have no way of controlling or knowing what that rate is until it gets swiped. So perhaps it's transparency to the retailer. Perhaps it's consolidating and saying you can't do all those different rates, or you can only have two.
Or we can't offer these programs any longer.
It's jacked, bro.
Yeah.
Anyways, those are our 2024 federal legislative agenda.
More clarity on that hopefully in 2024.
Yeah.
Anything else you got on your on your list there?
Well, we've seen brewery closings. Not a crazy situation in in Arizona necessarily.
No, and that's something that we did cover per se, but we didn't really drive the point home. When the number of breweries close, and I'm doing this downward motion with my hand, and it meets the rising openings of breweries, when those...
Well, when the openings that used to be way up here and the closings that were way down here, as they come together.
Yeah, sorry, I got that flipped. When openings and closings start to cancel each other out, right?
Right.
Instead of...
And we have a net negative number potentially.
A slight positive.
Still slight positive at this point.
Or negative. I mean, in that
we're
stable range.
In Arizona,
that is all business.
we are, yes, in all businesses, when that happens, you are in a what?
Mature market.
Mature market.
Yeah. And then you're competing differently. You're not competing because you're new. You're competing, I don't know, based on things like product quality, reach, hospitality, all those externals, right? And that's not a bad place to be if you're an operator with a firm sense of what your market is, what you're investing in, how you're going to grow or how you're going to not grow. Like if you got a handle on that thing, it's not necessarily a terrible thing because now you are competing and you're now, instead of just land rush for things, you are finding opportunities that make sense.
For a long time, craft beer was...
We got to get this product out. We
were based on the fact that there are a lot of consumers who didn't know us.
Right.
We were still a new product. People would still hear about craft beer and never have experienced it. And then they wanted to experience it. So we got a huge increase in market share because they were just finding out that it exists. And that ended. Now, a lot of breweries opened in 2017, 2018, and they had leases in 2017 and 2018 that are coming up now to be renewed or coming up soon to be renewed. And landlords are looking at dramatically increased lease rates. So that's one thing that can take someone from, oh, I had this business, I did my business plan, here's my rent amount, everything's cool, we're good, I'm making a little bit of money, I have all these employees that are making money and everything's good. But if you were to triple the rent, that throws your whole ratio off.
Yes.
And there are a lot of loans that are 10-year loans that are coming up to be due. And are you going to be able to pay for it, or are you going to have to take out another loan to pay for it, which is a normal business thing. But what are the rates going to be? Because interest rates aren't super good right now. 10 years ago, how were interest rates? Pretty dang good.
Right.
And now they're not so good.
Right.
You don't see ads on TV these days for 0% interest rate on your new Toyota Camry.
Right.
That's because that doesn't exist no matter what you try to do.
Right.
I got my car at a 0% interest rate.
And those things in and of themselves are not necessarily good or bad because there are people who do better when interest rates go up. There are people who are sitting on investments, and there are different.
Right.
But in terms of what you're saying for that particular group of business owners, yeah, that's a bad thing. There are people who have sitting on mutual funds that when real estate rates go up, it's a good thing for them. So
the anticipation now is that the Fed's going to lower interest rates in 2024.
Yeah.
So that might be good for those owners who have leveraged their business and are going to have to figure out how it works. But those are two things that are huge into what is going to happen with breweries.
Yeah.
And they're also getting to the point where like passion lasts a long time, but passion at 10 years is kind of tough for a business that you're working really hard on.
I agree. And things in your personal life change as well.
Yes.
I mean,
it's a long time. And if you open, again, so many breweries opened in 2017, 2018, 2016.
So if you've gotten, let's sort of kind of wrap this up a little bit. If you've gotten to that point, it's it's where everybody else is in any other industry when that happens. When we get to this state of maturity, it's not. It means that the quality of the business moving forward has to change, be better. I was saying, you were saying, in 2017, it was like, these are hot. Let's crank out a bunch of these. There's a vacuum of craft beer in this area. Let's try to sell everywhere in the state, but let's get our product out everywhere.
Yeah.
That's not, it was dubious then, but now it's super dubious. It's circling the wagons, going back to what you think you are going to be good at, what the opportunities are close to home.
And hospitality.
Bringing people in. Yeah, and take care of people. Like I don't know. Like definitely there were homebrewers who were like into making equipment and fabricating it more than they made beer. There's different reasons why people get into this as a passion, introducing people to new things. But to me, like the people who are still homebrewing and the people who are beyond passionate about it, but like are practical and they want the movement to continue. And I'm extrapolating to craft beer, and it's like people who wanted to take care of people. They wanted to introduce them to new things. They wanted them to guide them in a discovery. They wanted to, bring you your favorite beer once they got to know you. Like that has to be the heart of what you're doing. And it's so much harder to do when you have product out of state, across the country, or in places that you've never ever visited. Your beer is there. That's something that we learn doing this job is, it doesn't mean a whole lot until we get a bunch of faces to faces with some of our business owners. Like it's constant. We have to make that connection.
I remember I was going to the Chiricahua Mountains in southeastern Arizona for camping one weekend. And I stopped at literally the only market convenience store in a 50-mile radius. I mean, Tucson was at least 50 miles away.
Right.
There's just nothing. And they had a whole section that was Arizona wine because it was kind of close to Wilcox, right? So they had Arizona wine section, which was nice. But I went over to the beer area, and it was very slim pickings on craft. Mm-hmm. And I looked on the bottom shelf, and there was Rickety Cricket. Rickety Cricket beer from Kingman, Arizona, in Podunk, nothing.
Right.
Southeast Arizona. Like, how do you connect with the consumer other than me? Like, I am a 0.01% consumer in this market. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So things like that.
Exactly. Exactly that. How are we going to tie a bow on this?
All right, let's go to the next thing.
I thought we're done.
Oh,
we're not done? Okay.
Here is things that the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild is working on in 2024.
I'm interested.
Well, we've got Pint Day. We talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
That is moving forward. Still working on that.
Yep.
Smaller, more frequent events, not just beer, but events.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
I just actually had this thought between now and Strong Beer. We should start working with some of our taproom partners and some of our breweries and saying, hey, let's do something where we can talk about, let's bring, first of all, let's take care of our industry members, our allied members, our regular members. Let's have a happy hour. Obviously, we're going to do it in a public place. But let's get some people who want to support Strong Beer, and let's just give away some tickets. And
yeah.
So, I mean, that's not a novel idea, but I think the difference is I really want to encourage people who don't get out of their own brewery circle to do something different.
Right.
Because we do encounter that quite a bit.
I mean, we do that quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is that. sometimes we'll say, hey, we'll farm it out and we'll rely on the brewery. But like, I think we probably need to be present for some more of these things. And again, bring in some allied members. And
Do a remote podcast.
we could do that. Yeah. We could do remotes.
I mean, even if they're quick.
Yeah.
The app. I
app.
really want an app.
Beer
There
app.
are options out. Well, I mean, I've seen things pitched as a passport.
Yeah.
I have other thoughts on that, but an app for people to say, I want to go to Arizona and have beer where I go. And maybe I live in Phoenix, but I'm taking a trip somewhere. Where should I go? And having an Arizona beer app, I think would be super cool. It's expensive, it's hard, and it's something I'll be working on in 2024. Not that it will be accomplished, but that's a thing that I
For the people who are rooting for that, like none of this happens if we don't have successful events.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's when I say support. And like, for someone's like, hey, definitely can't go to that event. You just need to tell somebody that you know who feels similar to you that maybe doesn't even know about it. Like, you just have to encourage them to go.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, you're not going to go. Nothing wrong with telling 3 or 4 people to go, because that's really, unless and until we change the model with which this organization is funded, that's what I got for you. Encourage them to go.
Our friends at 8-Bit Brewing have an app, which is good. It's really good. I want to do some different things from what they're doing, but it's a good model for me to kind of like look at and say, here's someone who's doing it right. I want to have a map that you can zoom in on, and of course, and I would have to list hundreds of 100 breweries and potentially tap rooms and other industry members who would be involved, but I really like that. Okay. And then, Rob, tell me what you think how is AI going to affect our guild?
Well, I know that how we use it currently. We use it to sometimes the artwork we generate from it gets to see the light of day, but it's more of a process that helps us structure what our ideas are. It's a way for us to take our not very well detailed ideas and provide something to a designer. We've done that a couple times. We've done it for copy. We've done it for summarizing complex things. I don't know if you use that directly in your newsletters, but sometimes it gives you another take to understand what might be missing from whatever your thought process is. I used to have a blog. It's gone now because I let the domain go, and but I thought the process of writing helped clarify your ideas, and you can't really arrive at a concept unless you actually write some of it down and sort of go through the argument. So I think it has a role in that. I also know that in the travel industry, we're getting to the point where a lot of the stuff is beyond our control. So when you talk about an app, the way that app is populated, other apps is going to be reliant upon AI. As an example, when you Google, hey, I want to go to I want to go to the hypest breweries, or whatever adjective you use, it's going to go through the search engine, but the search engine is going to pick up the stuff that's been written by AI. And the accuracy of some of that stuff is questionable sometimes. Like we were talking about beer apps. I opened a beer app and it listed a business that hasn't had a brick and mortar presence in Arizona
7
a long time. And so,
years. The business was listed and it was 7 years gone.
Yeah. So, and it's, there's that.
Howell's Orchard?
No, that wasn't it. We'll get into that. I'm not going to list who it was either because I don't know yet. But
I was just baiting you.
No, I know. Business analysis has a role probably, but it's garbage in, garbage out. Like it's going to reveal things to somebody who has a certain bit of knowledge, but just used straight up without any context is going to be dicey for a while. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, great. That was a great summary. Thank you.
Yeah. You have any other applications that you're thinking about? It has a difficult time with text, like image to text. So if you want to say, hey, create a logo with these elements, if you put any letters in it at all, it's all going to look like Cyrillic Russian propaganda.
And then all wavy and goofy.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of people who make their money off of things like design. I think it could be used. So, someone could say, hey, I'm never using a designer again, and that's going to hit somebody in the pocketbook. I don't think that's the right answer for a long time. I guess technically we use AI in this podcast when designing the cuts for when it goes, I'm speaking, so it goes to me. But it also kind of naturally.
I mean, algorithm and AI are different things.
I don't know. The captions are AI. It's not an algorithm.
The captions are AI in what way? Like it hears and translates that into text. That's not AI necessarily.
Yeah, there are algorithms, but the body of, like, if I say the word block, what did I say? Did I say I'm going around the block? Am I saying that guy's black? Like, there's a subtle difference, right? And the AI decides which of those different speech models to choose.
Okay.
So it's not a straight one-to-one database anymore.
Right. But it still gets my name wrong.
Yes, puts two N's on your name for some reason.
Every time.
I don't know. Like, I can't figure out which one it's drawing from, but like all those things are, yeah, they are, they're, I don't know. Yeah. Part algorithm, but the fuzzy decisions it makes when it has choices, that's AI. So, am I going to?
Are you going to finish this podcast with a AI image of us sitting at a table?
It won't. I have used AI in a couple of the episode covers because I was like running out of ideas, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on AI? What role does it have? Will it have a significant role in 2024? I think we're not going to know. Like, I think there's probably someone that's probably taking a run at distribution models, like saying, hey, we want to solve these transportation issues. And I think it's
For sure.
good at that.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a really complex travel itinerary and you want to be here at a certain time, and you have airlines, trains, planes, all that other stuff to make decisions, I think that's
So it's aggregating.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. I just know that going through my news feed every day that I look at certain articles and I go, oh my God, this is totally written by AI. And it's so annoying.
Yeah.
But every time I open an article, there's an option for a AI generated summary, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of thankful that we have a physical product that has to be made by humans, and there's really no way to overcome that in I don't know, at least there's a lot of mechanical things that.
Yeah, that is the appeal. If we're distilling it down to that, it is.
We're not distilling it down. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of ways we can use it in our business, but as an industry, that's a thing. There's grain. AI has a hard time with grain.
Oh yeah? I don't know. You don't think it can read? It could be trained to read grain analysis sheets and
Very helpful. Yes, absolutely. And then make it like, oh, you need to increase your mash time by 10 minutes or decrease your boil.
Yeah, that's something that's done larger breweries, but I don't think people are doing that at a high level.
Maybe it will become mainstream.
I don't know. Maybe we're AI right now.
Can't promise. All right, Rob. Hey, Thanks for the chat, and we'll see you guys next year. This year.
See you every year.
See you every year. Oh, it's not a beer podcast.
It's a podcast.
Sometimes the beer finds you.
Sometimes it does. All right. This is a really long ass episode.